Item B is the presentation by our county clerk, Kenny Brown, for the 2014 budget. Kenny, and I know you've got your helper with you here, if you want to introduce her.
Yeah, it's Jenny Coldiron, Judge. She's my bookkeeper, and I appreciate this opportunity to go over our annual budget with you and highlights from the previous year. So with that being said, I'll start out the budget with a look back to 2013 and some of the highlights from some of the continuous improvements we've made in the office. So first, improvement made as far as communication and customer service enhancement. We now have a live lobby view of each office that a customer, if they're sitting at the office at lunch and want to decide whether they want to go to the clerk's office or not during their lunch period, they can take a look and see a view at that point, a live view. It's up to like a 15-second live view of the office. So we've gotten a lot of reviews from that. A lot of people, that was a campaign promise that I made and have fulfilled, and a lot of good feedback from that as far as customers not having to call in. They can just take a look for themselves and judge how long the line is at either location. So especially comes in handy at the end of the year and the first, or end of the month, the first of the month, when is our heaviest period. The next improvement we made process-wise, with no elections in 2013, we took, or the voter registration department, I should say, took on the big task of scanning in all of our voter registration cards. Over 116,000 voter registration cards are scanned in, and that picture there you see is a picture of about 75,000 staples that had to be removed from these cards in order to so that was an interesting picture there of two bins worth of staples that were manually removed as we scanned in all the voter registration cards. So now we have easy access to them rather than having to deal with the paper itself.
Hey Ken, so, could I ask a question pertaining to voter registration cards? Sure. You say there's 116,257. What is the total population of the county?
About 120,000 with the census, Commissioner.
So there's 120,000 people in the county and 116,000 voter registration cards out there. It looks like something needs to take place to purge a number of voters who no longer live in the county, or? Well,
that card reflects numerous changes. If you lived in the county your whole life, you probably got married. That was a name change. If you moved a couple times, those cards are not one-to-one person. Some folks who live in the county might have 6 or 8 cards, Charlie.
So we haven't done anything to update the cards to where we don't have the technology available, I guess, to say, hey, you know, I've had 5 changes of addresses, and my name is still on all those addresses that I've lived in the county. The thing that concerns me, and I think we do an excellent job in Boone County of making sure that people who are registered vote, and we don't have much where people come in and if you want to use the word cheat or whatever, but they try to vote more than once or whatever. But it would appear to me that we would be very interested in only having the most up-to-date information with voter registration, and it would show other counties and other states that, hey, you know, there are ways to improve this process and make sure that only the people who are legitimately registered can vote. I mean, how many horror stories do we hear at election time that, you know, in New York State, 1 million dead people vote, and those type of things. So I just think that would be a nice thing to look into.
Yep, absolutely. We're kind of bound to what the Secretary of State does. They're not really our boss per se, but they are the agency or the constitutional officer that kind of heads up the voter registration database for the state. But here individually in Boone County, we took on this task. And again, if you go to get your driver's license and you made a change to your address, that generates a card. And so this is really just a paper trail of the history of your voting cards. So it's not one-to-one.
Well, you know, we had this issue with the different state elected officials with the House of Representatives and the Senate and setting the districts, where we don't feel like in Boone County that we got the appropriate number of representatives equally proportioned with relationship to the number we should have. For instance, if we have 120,000 people in Boone County, that means we should have 3 full House seats in Boone County, and we don't have that. We have a bunch of different House seats hitting Boone County, and I think this is intentional in some areas of the state to be able to keep a majority in a certain party or whatever the case would be. And if the Secretary of State's responsible for that, I would think the Fiscal Court and the Clerk's office and all of us should be approaching our elected officials and saying, hey, let's do something about this. Let's make this thing right. Let's do it the right way.
Absolutely. And just to let you know, the Secretary of State office, along with the State Board of Elections, have an undertaking right now of a new voter database. So there'll be a meeting in Frankfurt tomorrow on that, and we've voiced a lot of the same concerns from the clerks to the Secretary of State and the State Board of Elections from exactly what you said, Commissioner.
Thank you for that information, Ken. I appreciate that.
Okay, next on the improved processes, in April 1st, we launched a phone-in renewal service. Obviously, everybody knows that the most traffic generated in our offices from renewals, and we were committed to giving customers alternative ways to do that. So when we first came in, we wanted to launch or promote the online renewal, and you'll see the success of that on the next slide. But this is one that we launched in-house. I worked with Bobby Hossclaw, the clerk in Jefferson County, and her team really helped me understand what we were undertaking here. And it's a little different than what Jefferson County does. In some ways, I believe it's better. It's a service that's available 24 hours, 7 days a week to our customers. It's automated. They can use a credit card and renew 24/7. And if they get it done by usually 2 o'clock in the day, we'll have it in the mail that same day. So as you can tell, it launched April 1st. We just had our biggest month of 137 renewals in the month of December. So I'm very, very happy, and we've gotten some great feedback on that, and that's only going to continue to grow. Just from a historical perspective, from what Jefferson County experienced, that's their number one way of alternative renewing is through the phone rather than the internet. So, but right now ours is the internet is still our number one way of an alternate way to renew rather than person. So you see the success that we've had here since 2010, only about 20 a month, and then we started promoted on social medias and different ways as cost effective as we could, and obviously it's paid off. So you can see with a 233 average, if you add that into December's 137, nearly 400 people did not have to come in the office to renew. So that eases the load on our building here, our infrastructure, as far as having spots for people to renew, and it lightens the load for customers to have to wait who have to come here. There's always going to be customers who have to come to the clerk's office to sign or get things notarized in a transaction, but this relieves that and makes their experience more efficient. Next, Commissioner Walton, here you see the redistricting, what happened in Boone County, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. A lot of people in this room were pushing for redistricting to happen in 2013, and we had to go to some extremes to get that done because we were underrepresented in the state House and the Senate. So with a team effort led by mostly Boone Countyans, we were able to get that done. Now, it wasn't done exactly the way we wanted. We do have 5 representatives now, which we should have 3 whole seats, but what that generated in Boone County was we had to create 2 new precincts, and then we had to alter 14 existing precincts because magisterial and commissioner lines with reapportionment, which happened before redistricting, those lines one precinct cannot have multiple legislative lines or commissioner magistrate lines. So that creates some problems when they start drawing the lines without looking at the current precincts. But this is what the effect of the current legislation that was passed and is now being put through into effect. So we have 2 new precincts in Boone County. Now we're up to 62. We had to alter 14 existing precincts, and we had to move, in the process of moving, over 4,500 voters to new precincts and notifying them of their new precinct. The next 2014, you guys seen this slide every year I've been here. It's the CAVIS project from the Department of Transportation. It is a project that was going on, started before I came in office, and I hope it's launched this year. I'm not real confident, but it's basically a process of a statewide information system that every county clerk will use to manage automobile and boat titling and registration. So it's a big project, and they're committed. They say they're committed to August 2014, but I'm not confident that will happen. They had a little setback over the holidays, and if they don't do it in 2014, it will be launched in January of 2015. The next project, when I came in the office, microfilming was something I'd heard talked about at a lot of the meetings that I go to, but with the county clerks. But we had the Kentucky Department of Library and Archives has a regional representative. Well, there was a transition period where we really didn't have a representative here, so it was kind of delayed whether they came and visited. But when they finally did, we realized that we were years and years behind in our microfilming, which if you've ever been down in our storage in our basement, you can tell there's tons and tons of books there. And so they came and did an assessment and then partnered with us on a microfilming project, which could potentially relieve us from a lot of the storage. So starting this year, we're going to be converting over 400,000 documents to microfilm. These are old deed books, mortgage books, tax assessment books, and over 350,000 of these documents we've already scanned into our digital service, and those will be printed out and then microfilmed. And then what will happen, those books can actually go away once they are microfilmed in and also digitally recorded here in our office. The microfilm would be stored in the Kentucky Department of Library and Archives. Those books don't have to be kept on hand anymore. So that's a project we'll be undertaking this year. Another project as far as our continuous improvement is going to be on our website. I'm currently meeting with vendors and reviewing software to add a live chat to our website. This is a fairly neat service. Probably most people have seen it if you bought anything online or use it online. Live chat makes it available for customer can just basically text message or instant message a live person to answer their questions. The nice thing about some of the features I've seen is that if you're on the voter registration page and you want a live chat, that live chat will go directly to the voter registration. If you're on the motor vehicle page, it goes to that department. So it's pretty neat how interactive it is. And also, when someone comes on the site, you can actually proactively invite them to chat, and this will reduce, hopefully phone calls and get better information to them quickly. So with that being said, that's kind of the overview of the highlights of 2013, and I'm going to turn it over to Jenny, and she's going to go through some of the funding structures, and then we'll both kind of talk about the budget for 2014.
Good evening. I think we've gone over this in prior years, but just in case we have some new people in the audience, just how the funding structure works in the clerk's office. The clerk's office is self-sufficient and solely funded from 75% of the fees and commissions collected from the transactions within the clerk's office. The fiscal court gets 25% of every fee and commission dollar collected, and our biggest source of revenue at the county clerk's office is generated from the commissions on usage tax and motor vehicle property tax collection. Some of the bullet points for the 2013 budget, some revenue generated for the fiscal court that's collected by the clerk's office. As of November 30th of 2013, our ending cash balance was at 1.16, you can see $1 million. That's our reserve account, our surplus funds. We're on pace to double the amount of the excess revenue by the previous clerk, which was $780,000. So we're thinking by December of next year, we're on pace. Probably what would we say, 1.5 million, right. 1.75 million.
And again, this is
back.
This is funds that the that the fiscal court will get back at the end of every term, every 4 years. The county of our size trues up with the fiscal court, whether it's good or bad. This is a good story. I think it's been bad here before, because the fiscal court is actually on the hook, for lack of a better term, if the finances aren't good in the clerk's office.
And also for the year, our 25% account that I spoke of earlier, we've paid in 2013 $772,000 to the fiscal court, and they get that quarterly. And then for 2013, we collected for fiscal court $2.1 million in the motor vehicle taxes, the deeds, liquor license, and delinquent taxes. So for 2013, we ended up $338,000 under budget. Kenny's pretty careful with his spending. He personally signs off on every PO, has lots of questions for us sometimes, so he takes the budget very personally. Some of the personnel items, we're looking forward to retirement costs going down July 1st of 2014 from 18.89% to 17.67%. We did have an health insurance cost rose 10% on July 1st, which Kenny took on that portion. We did not pass that on to the employees. They still have the same deductions. Our year-to-date, the sick and vacation accruals, which we consider a liability for all our employees, as of December 31st is at $275,000. So yes, we were $338,000 under budget, but that takes into consideration this liability that we also, obviously that's a reality. And then our personnel, we're on track to process more than $103,000 renewals for, was that for 2013 or 14?
Yeah, it's
okay. Sorry, I didn't do that. The next page, just kind of showing trends. Usage tax is trending upwards every year. The usage tax we're collecting. The delinquent property tax that we were collecting was trending downward. We had a little uptick this year. As Kenny pointed out, it's much better than in 2010, and we're hoping maybe that will decrease a little bit, hoping people's property taxes don't fall into delinquency. So moving forward to the 2014 budget, I'm going to let Kenny talk about this for the usage tax.
Yeah, one of the main sources of revenue is our usage tax collection, and that happens when a vehicle changes hands, whether it's a private deal or if it's with a dealership or a brand new car. House Bill 440 was passed by the state legislature, which goes into effect July 1st, 2014, and that allows trade-in usage credit for a new vehicle. Currently, today, if you went to a dealership and wanted to buy a new $20,000 car and you had a $10,000 car that you wanted to trade in, well, the usage tax would be based on the price that you paid for the new car, with doesn't matter what the trade-in value was. So starting July 1st, so I guess if you're going to buy a new car this year, you might want to wait till after July 1st, then you would get trade-in credit. So that same deal you would only be paying 6% of $10,000 rather than 6% of $20,000. So Jenny and I looked at this and talked to other clerks about it, so we flatlined that as far as our projection revenue, because and I talked to Jeff about it. We probably think it's going to go down, but hopefully, I think it was passed by the legislature and hope to generate more new car sales. So we'll see how that plays out. So good, Jenny.
Just another highlight, we have an increase in projected revenue of $589,000. Again, for the third year, we are not asking for anything additional for the operational expenses. We're asking for the same $2,319,000 that we've asked for 3 years. We are expecting an increase in health and dental insurance costs, possible staff additions, but we still feel that we can take those on within the current budget.
And one point too, Jenny, is that the 2.319 there is lower than when we came into office as well. So I'm pretty proud of that we've although with the continued uptick in activity and revenue, which usually, obviously generates more need for supplies and personnel and things like that, we've held the line on that with a lower budget than when we came in.
I believe in 2010 it was 2.375 million was the budget. For 2010, 2.375. And then just the last slide just shows we have we collected almost $12 million in the vehicle property taxes in 2013, and you can see the biggest pieces of the pie go to the Boone County School District and the state of Kentucky.
We get this question quite often, that when they get the renewal card, that where's all this tax money go from my vehicle? So we send these out to our frontline deputies and have them available if anybody has those questions, just to show them that depending on where they live, fire district, some of the agencies are county-wide, but depending on the fire district, school district, and things like that, where the money goes. And this is just from ad valorem tax created from personal vehicles.
That's it.
And with that said, I appreciate it, Jenny. I would entertain any questions and any comments and any explanation.
All right, at this point, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments from the court or the audience. Jeff?
Kenny, we spoke of this briefly. With the 2 new precincts, you'll be purchasing 2 new sets of voting machines, e-scan and e-slate machines for those 2 precincts, and we've programmed that into the budget as well.
Yeah, that is correct. We passed that on. We got a bid. I think Bob was in on the meeting from the state or the county board of elections, passed that and sent the bid on up to Ben, and so y'all have those numbers. I think it equates to about $12,000 per precinct. We've already secured the locations as far as the voting 2 places we're going to add as the new precinct. So yeah, those are in, and you should be good. And one thing too, to go back to that, the fiscal court is charged with paying for the election equipment and things like that are expenses are generated in the election process. One thing that when you look back at the scanning equipment on the voter registration cards, we ate that. We didn't let you guys know about it. It was a project that we wanted to do. It wasn't, and we felt like we had the budget to pay for it. So really, we kind of took it off the fiscal courts and went ahead and paid for it out of my budget and had plenty of room to do that. So, which was fine with me.
Hey, Kenny, I would like to say just how much I have observed your staff and how customer friendly they are. I mean, not when they're waiting on me. They know me as an elected official. But, when you can stand there waiting in line and you can see the way they treat the people, our citizens coming in, I was very impressed. I know I've been through a number of trainings for customer service, and I'm very impressed with your staff. They're doing a great job.
I appreciate that, and I'll be sure to pass that along to them, Commissioner.
All right. What I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to ask to move up item 7A, which is the administrative resolution, which deals with approving the budget and setting the maximum amount for deputies and so on. We normally do the presentation from the clerk here, but so that we can put it all together, not go on to other business and then come back, we'll move it up. Anything on the presentation or the clerk's office in general before we get to the resolution? Yes, Mr. Fritz.
My name is Stephen Fritz. I'm from Burlington. And Kenny, my question is, has the switch to electronic renewal had any effect, positive or negative, on the size of your staff?
Yes, it has. Now, our staff is higher than it was last year for one reason. I have a lot of, well, I would say, a lot of experienced staff that are posed to retire. So I've had to build up a couple of new spots to train. But our staffing levels, as you can see, our budget has stayed in check. But the big thing, not only staffing, is that if you go to Florence, we've got a lot of folks in Florence waiting in line because of it's only 6 spots to wait on customers where we have 8 here, and Florence is the more convenient location. So my commitment was to, when people were pushing for more brick and mortar, Steve, they were, we need another location in Walton, another location in Union, and I was approached by that, and people that ran in the campaign even was promising that. new locations. Well, I'm committed to doing things electronically where they don't have to come in until we exhaust every avenue of having customers come in here if they don't have to and don't want to, because a lot of folks are working 2 jobs. Time is money, and they're willing to pay the couple percentage on the credit card to go ahead and get it done and get it out of the way, and we put it in the mail to them. So yes, it's significantly impact the lines, I believe, and it's, again, there's always going to be people who have to come in, and if we can get them through the line quicker and get them processed quicker, it makes a better experience for everybody. We don't have to build more brick and mortar.
I too would like to concur with Mr. Walton. Every time I've come in there, your people have been extremely friendly and very courteous.
I appreciate that, and I'll pass it along to them as well.
Thank you, Mr. Fritz. Speaking of the Florence office, and you touched on it, it now does more than half of the total customer business as far as people coming into the office.
Yeah, correct. It is just the motor vehicle branch. We do probably more business here because of the
Right.
Being close to the sheriff, and I work with Bob Neese almost on a daily basis, and so the center's here. But you're right, the convenience of the motor vehicle department being in Florence has triggered, and the lack of space there, only 6. And they do a great job. And even though the lines seem to be long, I watch them, and if you time it, they are moving very quickly for those girls, and they do a tremendous job to get the folks through with, and not running it through like a herd of cattle. They're giving everybody personal service.
It'd be hard to imagine what kind of lines and workload we'd have today if Florence had not been opened, and a lot of us worked hard to make that happen back when, and it has paid its dividends. And I agree with your comment, though, that as things become more automated, we need to be cautious about how we invest in brick and mortar. There may be opportunities, there may be reasons to do so, but I agree with your statement there a moment ago. Other questions or comments?
Yeah. Hey, Kenny, do you know how many square foot you occupy up at the Florence Center?
Oh my goodness, that's probably the worst. I'm the worst person to ask that. We do have blueprints back of it. I wouldn't be able to.
I don't need you to do that. Jeff, do you by chance know what the square footage is?
I do know one
It's
thing.
somewhere between 1 and 2,000 square feet. It's not a huge space.
And what is our monthly obligation to the city of Florence on that space?
I'm not sure. I have to check the lease commissioner. I'm not sure.
With the circuit clerk, so we have.
Yeah,
It is
you have to
combined
break
with
it
the
out.
circuit clerk. That's what I was going to say. And I want to say it's around 3 something from our portion, I believe. I read the Jeff and I went over the contract when I first came in. It is a long-term contract that, I think almost a 20 or 30-year contract when it was signed.
Commissioner, it's a lease that has some characteristics of the lease of the PSCC. Not identical, but in that vein.
I was just curious. And by the way, Kenny, everybody I talk to just brags on how good a job you and your staff do, and just wanted to say I've witnessed it, and I appreciate it also.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, other questions or comments before we move 7A up? All right, without objections, Sherry's sitting in for Daphne tonight. And Sherry, if you'll read item 7A for us.
A resolution relating to the Boone County Fiscal Court approving the county clerk's budget, general term order, and annual order for setting the maximum amount for deputies and assistants of the county clerk's department for the calendar year 2014.
All right, what's the pleasure of the court?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kenner and seconded by Commissioner Walton to approve this resolution. Is there any question, are there any questions, or is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the clerk's budget, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes 4-0. You are approved for another year.
Thank you, Judge. And I just wanted to say on behalf of myself and the staff that we appreciate all the people up here, the departments from GIS to the Sheriff's Department to Bob Neese's office, even the Public Works Department helps us out on copying some big plats out there. And we really appreciate working with you all. I think it's been a team effort over my first 3 years here, and I appreciate that.
Thanks, Kenny.